What if I told you that before the Galácticos, before the dazzling transfers, before the era of Ronaldo, Zidane, Figo, and Beckham, there was a boy from Madrid who carried the weight of Real Madrid on his shoulders? The player who defined Real Madrid at the turn of the century wasn't a global marketing phenomenon, but a quiet, relentless forward who lived and breathed the club's values. This is the story of Raúl González Blanco, the legend who defined Real Madrid before the Galácticos. Chapter 1. Roots of a Legend. Raúl González Blanco was born on June 27, 1977, in San Cristobal de Los Angeles, a working-class neighborhood in Madrid's southern districts. His childhood was modest, surrounded by family values of discipline and humility. His father, Pedro, was a passionate supporter of Atlético Madrid and often brought young Raúl to the Vicente Calderón Stadium. His mother, Maria Luisa, kept him grounded, ensuring that school and responsibility mattered as much as football. The streets of San Cristobal were his first training ground. Dusty pitches and broken concrete became battlefields where neighborhood kids fought for pride. The goals were made of jackets, stones, or chalk lines. There were no referees, no rules beyond passion. For Raúl, these matches taught lessons no academy could: anticipation, movement, and the art of finding space where none existed. He learned that brilliance wasn't about tricks. It was about being in the right place at the right time. When Atlético Madrid spotted his talent and welcomed him into their youth academy, it felt like a dream fulfilled.
Este equipo que veis aquí es campeón de España de juveniles, de infantiles ya. Ojo, Raúl, mi capitán. 55 goles, que aprendan los máximos goleadores.
He wore their colors, trained with pride, and dreamed of scoring goals for the team his father adored. Coaches quickly noticed his intelligence and composure. Unlike many kids his age, Raúl never rushed, never panicked. He played with calm maturity, as if the game slowed down just for him. But in 1992, disaster struck. Atlético's president, Jesus Gil, closed the club's youth academy in a sweeping cost-cutting decision. Hundreds of boys were suddenly cut adrift. Among them was Raúl, a skinny, determined teenager who had given his heart to the club. For his father, it was heartbreak. For Raúl, it was devastation. But fate had other plans. Real Madrid scouts, already aware of his ability, moved swiftly. They invited him into La Fábrica, Madrid's prestigious academy. For Raúl's parents, it was a complicated decision. Their household was Atlético at heart, but they knew opportunities like this did not come twice. With one choice, Raúl's destiny changed. He would no longer grow up dreaming of goals at the Calderón. Instead, he would walk into the Santiago Bernabéu as its chosen son. Chapter 2. The Breakthrough. By 1994, Raúl was the crown jewel of La Fábrica. Word had spread quickly through Madrid. This skinny teenager had something special. Coaches described him as mature beyond his years, a player who didn't just score, but dictated the rhythm of a match.
17 años, yo creo que no te das cuenta ni de la responsabilidad que es jugar en el Real Madrid, ¿no? La verdad que era muy joven y lo que me apasionaba era jugar al fútbol. Emilio Butragueño fue uno de los jugadores que más me ayudó.
His calmness under pressure, his constant movement, and his relentless hunger made him impossible to ignore. Real Madrid's first-team coach at the time, Jorge Valdano, had a dilemma. His squad was under pressure, struggling for inspiration. In training, he watched Raúl with fascination. The boy wasn't just talented, he was fearless. Valdano made a bold decision. He would promote the 17-year-old to the senior squad. On October 29, 1994, against Real Zaragoza, Raúl stepped onto the pitch for his debut. The Bernabeu crowd didn't quite know what to expect. What they saw was astonishing. He didn't score, but his movement was electric. He demanded the ball, pressed defenders, and linked with teammates as if he had been part of the squad for years. Spanish newspapers the next day praised his maturity. The boy who plays like a man. But the real story came 1 week later, the Madrid derby, Atlético versus Real Madrid. For Raúl, this was no ordinary fixture. Just 2 years earlier, he had worn Atlético's colors. Now, he was in all white, facing the team that had cast him aside. The stakes could not have been higher. From the first whistle, Raúl played with fire. He ran at defenders, pressed relentlessly, and seemed destined to leave his mark. And then it came, his first senior goal, a strike that carried more than just points on a scoreboard. It was personal redemption. A teenager, rejected by Atlético, scoring against them in the colors of Real Madrid. The Bernabéu erupted. For Madridistas, it was destiny. For Atlético, it was heartbreak. For Raúl, it was the first chapter of a legend. That debut season, he played 28 games and scored 9 goals. But numbers tell only part of the story. His presence transformed the team. He gave Madrid fresh energy, a symbol of the future, and a connection between the stands and the pitch. Fans felt he wasn't just playing for them. He was playing as one of them. Veteran teammates were stunned by his composure. Butragueño, the vulture, and Madrid icon of the 1980s, later admitted that Raúl's arrival felt like the perfect handover. The Quinta del Buitre era was fading, and Madrid needed a new leader. They found him in a boy, barely old enough to drive. By the end of that season, Raúl was no longer a youth prospect. He was a first-team regular. At 17, he had taken Real Madrid by storm, and the Spanish press had already crowned him the next great symbol of the club. For Madridistas, it wasn't just the rise of a new star, it was the birth of a new era. Chapter 3. Becoming Madrid's symbol. Through the second half of the 1990s, Raúl grew from a teenage prodigy into the beating heart of Real Madrid. He wasn't the strongest, he wasn't the quickest, but he had something rarer, an instinct for the game that couldn't be taught. Watch him closely, and you would see the genius in the details. His runs weren't obvious sprints, but subtle darts into half spaces that left defenders chasing shadows. A step here, a feint there, and suddenly he was free, ghosting into the box undetected. In front of goal, Raúl was ice. He could finish with either foot, with his head, or with a flick at full stretch. His teammates knew, if Raúl was there, the chance would be buried. By 1995, at just 18, he was lifting his first La Liga title. He played with veterans twice his age, yet his composure set him apart. Over the following seasons, he became Madrid's most reliable scorer. His partnership with Predrag Mijatovic gave Madrid balance. The Serbian's physicality paired with Raúl's sharp instincts. Later, with Fernando Morientes, Raúl found perfect chemistry. Together, they terrorized defenses across Spain and Europe. But Raúl was more than goals. He was Madridismo in its purest form. Every celebration was understated. The famous kiss to his wedding ring. Fans adored him not just for his goals, but for his authenticity. In 1996 and 1997, as Barcelona strengthened under Bobby Robson and then Louis van Gaal, La Liga became a battlefield. Madrid needed warriors. Raúl answered every call. Then came 1998. Real Madrid had been chasing the European Cup for 32 years. Generations of fans had lived and died without seeing their club crowned kings of Europe again. In Amsterdam, against Juventus, Raúl and his teammates finally ended the drought. He was only 20 years old, yet he was already carrying the weight of history on his shoulders. By the close of the decade, Raúl wasn't just another star. He was the face of Real Madrid, the embodiment of Madridismo, resilience, sacrifice, and hunger for victory. Chapter 4. The Big Nights in Europe. If La Liga made Raúl a household name in Spain, the Champions League turned him into a legend across the world. In 1998, against Juventus, he was part of the team that delivered Madrid's long-awaited 7th European Cup. The Bernabéu wept with joy. But it was in 2000 where Raúl truly etched his name into European folklore. That year, Real Madrid faced Valencia in Paris in the first ever All-Spanish Champions League final. With Madrid already leading, Raúl picked up the ball deep in his half. The pitch opened before him. He surged forward, outpacing defenders, and finished coolly past Santiago Cañizares. 3-0. Madrid were champions again. 2 years later, in 2002, the final in Glasgow against Bayer Leverkusen gave the world Zidane's wonder volley. But before that, it was Raúl who opened the scoring. A dart to the near post, a quick finish, and Madrid had the perfect start. His 3rd Champions League title, all before 25, and his legend wasn't confined to finals. He silenced Old Trafford with 2 goals against Manchester United, including a curling strike past Peter Schmeichel. He scored in Munich, in Rome, in hostile grounds across Europe. Wherever Madrid travelled, Raúl delivered. For nearly a decade, he stood as the Champions League's all-time top scorer. Fans across the continent began calling him Mr. Champions League, not because he was flashy, but because he was inevitable. These nights cemented his reputation worldwide. For Madridistas, they were sacred memories. For his opponents, nightmares. And for Raúl, proof that football is about seizing the moment when it matters most. By 25, he was more than a forward. He was a legend of Europe. Chapter 5. Galácticos and the Decline. In 2000, Florentino Perez was elected president of Real Madrid and unveiled his Galácticos project. Figo, Zidane, Ronaldo, Beckham. Each summer brought another global superstar. Madrid became more than a football club. It became a spectacle, a brand, a global phenomenon. Amid the glamour, Raúl remained the heartbeat. He wasn't the flashiest, nor the most marketable, but he was the leader. He sacrificed personal glory for the team, pressing tirelessly, working selflessly, and ensuring balance in a galaxy of egos. Inside the dressing room, his influence was unmatched. He was respected, feared, and admired. He demanded professionalism and set the standard. The Galácticos brought stardust, but Raúl provided gravity. But football is merciless. By the mid-2000s, injuries and age slowed him down. New stars emerged, and his role began to fade. Yet Raúl never created controversy, never complained. He carried himself with the same dignity he always had. In 2010, after 16 unforgettable seasons, he left Madrid. His record was extraordinary. 741 appearances, 323 goals, 6 La Liga titles, 3 Champions League trophies. He departed as the club's all-time top scorer, a record that stood until Cristiano Ronaldo. Yet Raúl's greatness was never just numbers. It was his character, his loyalty, his embodiment of Madridismo. Chapter 6. Beyond Madrid, an eternal legacy. Raúl's story didn't end in Madrid. He moved to Schalke in Germany, where many believed his career would fade quietly. But Raúl surprised them all. In Gelsenkirchen, he became a hero. He scored goals that carried Schalke to the Champions League semi-finals, lifted the German Cup, and became beloved by fans who called him Señor Raúl. His professionalism, humility, and relentless drive transcended language and culture. Later, he played in Qatar, and then in the United States with the New York Cosmos. Even in the twilight of his career, he gave everything. He remained the same professional he had always been.
Desde el 96 debutando, bueno, para mí siempre un sueño, una ilusión, pero bueno, las circunstancias se dieron así, ¿no? Vienen otros jugadores, otras generaciones y bueno, hay que respetar, ¿no? Igual que durante 10 años todos los que estuvieron me llamaban, pues en ese momento un día tenía que llegar, ¿no?
And when he retired, he returned to Real Madrid, mentoring the next generation at La Fábrica. The boy who had once walked into the academy as a hopeful prospect returned as a mentor, passing on lessons of loyalty, humility, and sacrifice. Raúl's legacy lives in the players he inspired. Fernando Torres idolized him. David Villa studied his movement. Alvaro Morata wore number 7 because of him. Even Cristiano Ronaldo, who surpassed his records, credited Raúl with paving the way. For Madridistas, Raúl is eternal. He is the bridge between 2 eras, the relentless captain who defined Real Madrid before the Galácticos, and the quiet leader who held them together during it.
He tenido sensaciones de que esto tenía que terminar, que han sido muchísimos años vistiendo la camiseta del mejor club del mundo, conociendo compañeros, entrenadores, empleados, gente que trabaja en el club increíble, que me han tratado súper bien. Me apetece seguir jugando y me apetece seguir compitiendo. Me voy de Real Madrid, pero voy a seguir jugando.
When people think of Real Madrid, they often think of glamour, of Galácticos, of global icons. But before all of that, there was Raúl. He didn't need fireworks. He didn't need extravagance. He let his football, his leadership, and his loyalty speak for him. Raúl González Blanco was more than a player. He was the soul of Real Madrid, the bridge between eras, the legend who defined the club before the Galácticos, And though time moves on, though records are broken, and though new stars rise, one truth will never change. For Madridistas, Raúl is eternal. And that's the story of Raúl González Blanco, the legend who defined Real Madrid before the Galácticos. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss more deep dives into football's greatest stories. But now, I want to hear from you. Where do you rank Raúl among the greatest strikers in football history? Was he underrated compared to the Galácticos who came after him? Or does his legacy already stand above them all? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'll be reading through them.